I like, so I will go into it later, so I don't want to just like tell too much now, but I've been forcing people to sneak around the office all day because we're not so many, but that's how it works. Just snap stuff in there, then you can make great games. I'll show one later.
So stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
It's hard to contain the excitement.
Really shitty TV host, Eric Torstensson, but stay tuned. I'm going to try to establish that. I actually was an audition for a TV show in Sweden many years back. I did not get the job.
Well, now we created your own TV show called School of Ridiculous Inventions.
Yeah. And this is a part of that invention, but I'll give you a sneak peek a bit later.
Sam says he definitely wants to do. Sam says he definitely wants to do more with wearables. He's saying it makes STEAM and technology more fun and interactive.
Yeah. Also, what happens is you automatically have to kind of vary the project because we are different. Like we have different lengths of different biometric measurements. It's very good. So then you automatically have to vary. But then also, because the wearability, the imagination starts running a little bit faster sometimes with the kids. And that's what we want to get started. So they just start running with the new idea that sprung up. Or what happens if I had little flappy things next to my ears? Really bad wings or whatever, but it starts like that and then they improve on it. So that's one of the things we really want. Well, at least that's what I enjoy seeing when we're in the classroom getting them started. Then usually it's just boop, and then time.
I think some of my favorite experiences working with children, back when I was, working in the Science Center Children's Museum was, especially with wearables, sometimes children have like a very specific idea in mind, like I'm going to make a crown. And then when they're building it, it just kind of like an accidental flip it over or put on your wrist and then suddenly it turns into something else. Or somebody shares their idea. Actually, a few times I've seen kids like combine their wearables so they just become fused. So it's a double wearable.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, Sam was talking about like when students get more invested when they're wearing it. And I think it like comes into your personal space. Like sometimes when somebody gets too close and it's not comfortable, or sometimes somebody gets close and it's really comfortable. That personal space line really means something when you're making. And when you put it in your personal space, it feels different. You emote differently, create differently. And making it possible to create in your personal space is really special, I think.
And also that when the scale is in your, like it's in your space, like it's the same scale as your body, that's something that we have as a very big advantage. You can really fast, you can get to the scale of a hat or a body piece in 4 or 5 minutes. So that's one of our favorite features because it becomes bigger and the experience is nice. So for example, I see a little crane here on the floor. And then this usually happens because everything is pretty big. Now my head is probably, it's a little bit too big. So then we come into the wearable crane. Now I need to modify it and find the pipes that will work for to put my head inside this. So I'll have that as a side challenge during today's show.
Well, you know what? Christine just said that when she teaches with Strawbees, they're often makers who make hats, but won't wear them. So Christine gets to wear their creations during her workshops.
Yeah, amazing. I had a big workshop in Italy where we had a crew of teachers that we were doing a teacher training. And we had a catwalk for the entire fair where they had to build silly hats that were moving and warping around. It was amazing. But we had one that didn't want to wear the hat, so they made a cat with a hat on the floor walking behind them. And actually, it was so good that I needed to, like, that's the thing. If you break the rules, it's okay if it's amazing.
Absolutely.
We have multiple mics, so I'm going to call one of our mics Mike's Classic, Mike Squared. So one of our lovely mics is asking about if the huge microbit really works. Mike, could you actually elaborate more on that question? So that way maybe Eric or I can answer that.
I think it's the one, possibly the one behind me. Is that?
And Katie, does it work?
Yeah, unfortunately it doesn't. It's cardboard and I would get up and, well, guess what, everybody? I'm not wearing shoes. This is the giant microbit. It's made out of cardboard. It's a scale model of a microbit. You can see all the little sensors on the back here and everything it does. But no, it is just cardboard, no electronics. Sorry to your son, Mike. Would be a good challenge for him to make one.
Yeah, for now.
Can I get one of this from you? Take a photo.
Now, unfortunately, my friend bot doesn't really fit on my head, so I cannot join this hat wearing. Well, actually, I guess what I could do is I could remove the straw in the back and try to, although I don't know if it's going to work, but let's try it. Ooh, well,
I can do this. I need tape.
Okay.
not quite, not quite. Although that would be a really nice way. It'd be like having a, like a child. You know how you have children that are sitting on the back of your neck, holding on to your shoulders and your head? So I guess that's how I could make the friend bot, kind of like my child,
You do that.
but on my head. So even easier to see above high crowds.
I need a clip. I have this ultra cool fedora.
Ah, ooh, green.
I need one of the little connectors for the yellow connector that you created, Eric, for the microbit to put into my hat so I can attach my microbit to my hat.
Because it actually, you can put rubber bands or string and connect to there's little hands on it to be able to connect it with rubber bands to stuff.
Do you want to show that yellow connector, that clip?
Yeah.
I think it's super simple and really powerful because it really lets kids put the technology where they want it. They're not limited by the manufacturer's design.
It also makes it really fast to snap into the structure. So you can see it's just on our board, but it's very simple. It's just, so this is easy. You can also 3D print it. It's no problem to make, but so what I was talking about, you see these little grabby things there, they're perfect for attaching with rubber bands onto anything. So if you don't have any construction straws on your structure or the cardboard structure, you can just attach it with rubber bands. But the clip also snaps onto the microbit, so you can have that as it is. And then
Amazing.
snap it into your crane. If you want to, for example, this would be a perfect, just snap it on and measure the angle so you have good angle measurement of the crane.
Mm-hmm.
So always snapping. We wanted that to be fast. We didn't want them to spend too much time on figuring out how to get it on the structure. Just snap it in there and see if it works. And if it doesn't, you start improving it, but usually it works. But then like the little harness that I made, this is very precise for precise projects like wearables.
Easy to adjust as well.
Yeah.
And actually what's nice is you could put the clip also on a battery pack. So you can even put the battery pack directly on a structure as well. That.
The clip too, I think you were sharing an example with the wearable that you can, like you mentioned with the rubber bands, like not only to put the rubber bands on the clip for like a hat, but it can fit around your wrist or your ankle. You could attach it, to another part of your body. That little yellow snap is really well designed, very, very flexible. If I had a class set of microbits or even the Makey Makeys, right? Because it fits a Makey Makey as well. I think should have a bucket of those snaps sitting right next to them. It makes the making a lot of fun.
So I think now we can kind of jump into the swing of things. So thank you everyone for joining us. We're really excited to have everyone participate in the very first Strawbees, the very first Strawbees, I can't think of the word.
Our PLAYINAR.
PLAYINAR. I know, the very first Strawbees official PLAYINAR with Microbit Education Foundation. Katie Henry joining us.
Hello, super happy to be here and excited to play together today. Lots of fun ideas to share, cool stories to tell, and things to make. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I'm Lindsay Balfour. I'm also on the education team based in Strawbees. Katie and I are very longtime friends though, so we just can't get enough of each other, even if we are, over the Atlantic away. Both teachers by trade. And I'd also like to introduce one of the inventors and founders of Strawbees.
Yeah, me probably, Eric. My name is Eric. a mechanical engineer that started dabbling with science education, and then it was a slippery slope into making educational tools. I have had so much fun going around the world talking at science centers and making stuff. But I started with mostly making physics experiments, and then I made code and then robots and structures. So, and Strawbees is one of my favorite things because it's not just about building objects, it's about building brains. Like it's about building thinking, which I really, really love. So that's the entire idea about it.
Eric, you know,
I'm really happy to be here and play.
You also have one of these beautiful stories about how Strawbees came to be. You know, like when you've been talking about invention literacy, you know, you've talked about inventing with Strawbees, that it's meant to be kind of an open-ended material. Can you tell us more about how the name, how it came to be?
I'll try to be super brief. I was just in an interview that was over an hour, so this is a dangerous rabbit hole.
You have 2 minutes.
But let's keep it to very short. So the thing was, I was actually asked to make an icosahedron model from a science center. And I was working, back then I was working a lot with a die cutter and a hacked vinyl cutter that I had, because I was in the maker movement, like here in Gothenburg. I loved just cutting out stuff in cardboard and thin plastic. When I make the icosahedron, you make a 5-leg, you know the icosahedron, the 20-sided die, Dungeons and Dragons die. When you make that, every corner has 5 straws like pipes going into the corner vertices in the vertice. So I needed to make that 5-leg one, and that's how Strawbees was invented, because when I was going to make that, you start with your computer making 1 leg and then you spin it. But I was going to make this icosahedron modular, so I had a hole in the corner or in one of those corners, and when I made the first leg, I realized, ooh, this is interesting. So I printed out 100 or with a vinyl cutter, and then started playing with just the single leg connector, which is the Strawbee that can make anything. So, which makes it into one of my favorite things. This is a one rule tool that we were talking about in the Makey session with Jay. Silver is also a friend. You just have to figure out how to push things into things. Like push it into, that's the rule. Push your Strawbee into a pipe or into a Strawbee. There's no other things you need to know. And then you can just scaffold your way into it. Then obviously there's secret tricks and lots of things you can discover, but that's what we want to keep it that way. So they actually find it out. So that's how it started. And at Maker Faire, I was like, I hacked Maker Faire. This is now everybody can get the top secret thing. So my first Maker Faire was in New York. And I had a die cutter in a guitar strap over my shoulder. And I didn't have a booth or a stall or anything. I just bought a ticket and went in. And then I found the table and set up shop, and then tons of kids came and started building, because obviously we had lots of color and we're using drinking straws because we wanted to save materials. We were actually working only with cardboard and drinking straws, and then leftover materials that we were die cutting with my machine. And then I didn't even have a name, but this was Friday, and like Dale Doherty found us and said, "This is amazing. You need to have a spot. We know you haven't applied, but this is fun. We see the kids are enjoying it." We had a huge crowd of kids, and I was asking every kid what I should call it because I didn't have a name. It was just a prototype. This was before we did a Kickstarter and everything. And a kid came on the Sunday and said, "You should call them Strawbees because they connect straws and can be anything. And it sounds like strawberries, and everybody loves that." And I'm like, "Thank you, tiny copywriter." So that's the short version of the invention of Strawbees, but there's many tracks to it, that invention story. But basically it was me doing a lot of sustainability and physics education. And that's why I was using as minimal plastic as I can to make big experiences. And that's where we're at. Thank you for listening to that story.
Well done. You have your storytelling actually kind of down to a science now, Eric.
Yeah, yeah, I love stories.
You know, I think like the beautiful thing about being a maker, which is everyone is a maker. It's not a specific group, not a specific talent, not something you're born with. But what I really love about making, you know, whether it's with Strawbees, cardboard, is that it kind of gives you some sort of sense of who you are, even if you're unsure what's happening. Like I love really making with paper. Like
Yeah.
you know, folding with paper, even if I don't have a very specific idea in mind, but I kind of love what kind of appears from there. And I think this quarantine, though, it's a very difficult situation for many of us, I'm sure, especially teachers. I mean, but it's really nice that you can use making as a platform to really come up with new ideas that maybe you didn't even know you had. Like, you know, boredom is a natural fuel, I think. And, you know, I've been kind of creating some of these friend bots here, you know, lately, because, you know, we've been actually creating a few friend bots lately, and it's been giving me a sense of like joy, you know, like it's exciting to like create this friend bot and just try to practice with the code, trying to bring this expressive, you know, expressiveness. And it gives me like a little bit of joy, just like when you first light up an LED with a coin cell battery, especially with young children who are just enjoying that for the first time. It just brings that joy. Does that spark anything for anybody here?
Yeah, definitely. I'm thinking of actually just in the time that we're all in, where people are constantly wondering, you know, what is happening next. Our minds become very vigilant and looking around us. And when you're making, you're very present. And I think that's really important, just for my own health each day, is to just be present right here. And when I'm folding paper or cutting a straw, or really just in my mind creating something, I'm just so connected with the here and now. And that actually is good for my brain. It's good for my body. It's healthy, and it actually keeps my body from becoming too vigilant or too worried or too stressed. And so sometimes we think I will create something when I'm more peaceful, or calm or relaxed. But the reality is making can be a pathway to relaxation. Making can be a pathway to being calm and present. And it can really be quite fun. And so just prioritizing that time in your day to say that this matters too, this is important for me too, is what makes me think of. It's just important to do.
Yeah, I agree.
See lots of comments.
I do. For me, that's also one of my ways of relaxing. I'm very physical, like tangible thinker. That's how I can really get into a flow when I build, when I don't really plan it. I had a plan to start with, and then I just flow around a bit. And then after a while, I reflect and look back at the thing, and that's what generates my strategic later innovation. But the first part is just flowing or playing around is wonderful, and the ideas just come up from that process. It's one of my ways of relaxing. Obviously, otherwise I would probably not be here.
Speaking of relaxing, when you make things, Lindsay, can I share a little project with everyone?
Yes, please.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to share with you. So we're thinking about storytelling and expression and expressive robotics. And I'm just going to share my screen here to make code. Okay, Lindsay, are we good with visuals?
Yes, we are.
Okay, cool. So basically, I'm just going to jump right in if that's okay, Lindsay. I want to share a really neat activity. It's a breathing. Well, it's kind of a technical name. It sounds like breathing regulator. Like you're gonna go scuba diving and it's gonna like manage your. I don't know. That's not what it is. I think it's just a fun way to take a deep breath. And over the weekend, I went hiking. Not here. I wish here. But when you're in nature, and I'll show you a picture from my hike. You just naturally just take these beautiful deep breaths. This is a picture from my hike over the weekend. The water is running, the wind is blowing, I'm kneeled down into the flowers, my pants are all wet, and I love it. And I come home from that experience and I'm still carrying that piece with me. And so this project is really interesting with the microbit because I believe that it actually is very calming in the same way that being with the flowers and being in nature is. So let me just share with you. Actually, I'm gonna have to stop share and reshare and use my audio because I want you to hear this. So here we go. Just do a little 30-second intro and then we'll make it together.
You can use your BBC Microbit to learn and use a breathing technique that might help you to feel more relaxed if you're worried or stressed. By creating a program to show an animation on the LED display that you can follow with your in and out breath, you can learn how to breathe in a steady, slow rhythm, which many people find calming. Let's open the MakeCode editor and write our code.
So this is a project created by Giles Booth, our education content manager at the Microbit Foundation. Giles is an amazing educator, and he creates all these wonderful activities that you see here that are designed for at-home play. And so down here is the full 2-minute version of how to do that, but we're going to build that together right now using MakeCode. So I'm going to go ahead and open the MakeCode editor, which is a great way to also program your servo motors with the Strawbees kit. And I think Lindsay's going to look a little more into that later on. But this is a really great home base when you're creating with Microbit and Strawbees. And so if you just notice right away, there's a simulator over here that is showing me everything that's happening in my code. So also, I see some questions starting to pop up. So Lindsay, feel free to throw those out here if they are relevant. Are there some right away you want to share?
What's that?
Are there any questions right now? Some questions just popped up on my screen. I just want to make sure I'm not
Just a few
missing
comments
something.
about how
Okay.
awesome this
Okay.
looks.
Sweet. So basically, this code is very easy to write. So I'm going to scare everyone and delete it. We're going to remake it. So we're really just using very simple animation. And I like this diamond pattern because it's very relaxing. And so I'm just going to duplicate these blocks here and start to build a very simple little pattern. Now, you might find a pattern that's more peaceful to you, dots growing in a different direction or slowly, fastly, all different ways. I'm just showing you one way to do this. Now, Giles has I like that he did this in his project. He actually added in just a little single dot at the beginning. And I think that this really helps you just to really focus in. So you take that breath in, hold it, and let it go. But really, this is going too fast for my breathing. So we can use these pause blocks to actually slow down the breathing. And so you can see I'm just duplicating these here. I want a big breath in the beginning, some short breaths, and then I want to hold again, a nice big breath before we let it all out. And so if we let this little pattern run over here in the simulator, you should start to see a very relaxing breathing machine. Mindfulness. You can think of taking deep breaths slowly in and exhaling. And it appears to have an extra little dot there, so let me figure out where that is. Let me come back over here, make my image small, and you can see that over here, I don't like this extra little dot, so I'll just click and take it off. And here we go. We have a nice little breathing regulator, and here it is in my hand. If you're looking at the screen, you can see the same little program running. Now this is fun to carry in your pocket. I can just turn the battery pack on and off, make it come on again, and I have it with me. Just something fun to make. Create some different patterns, create some different images, and just have fun creating something that's peaceful to you. All right, I see some questions over here. I wonder if you could do this with students to start off a lesson, like relaxation and meditation with computer science. Absolutely. I think this would be a really fun way to get kids making, because honestly, it's one of those things that's personal to you. You're creating the images that make you feel inspired, you're having fun, and the kids naturally are pulled into that creative process. And really, you can take 5 or 10 minutes of instruction just to play with the simulator. You don't actually have to download them. And it's a really cool way to open a lesson.
I also agree, because this is like I come in, just start something in my brain, because this is how I started making empathy robots a couple of years ago. So one of the things was actually figuring out what does it mean to be calm. So we did a project where they have figured out what's my calm breathing motion. And it's actually close to a sine wave. So this just rings so much of a bell, because my fiance, she's also a teacher. So she does this. She actually does some meditation in the beginning of the class. And this is a good way of actually keeping, to use a little bit of tech to help you get past that first hurdle, to realize that it's actually good to come in focus. I think it's a great idea. And there's many projects we can do that would tangent that, obviously. But I can talk too long again, so I'm going to stop myself.
I actually took your code earlier, Katie, about making a mindfulness bot. And actually, I kind of just started with just the boards itself. So just the robotic inventions board with the microbit before actually adding it on the Strawbees, because I just kind of wanted to see what naturally came to be in terms of what I would create around it. Because the first thing I think of is like a mouth, you know, like when I'm breathing. And I mean, I've noticed that sometimes, you know, we use the LED matrix as like for eyes, or even to fit the whole face. So you have 2 dot eyes and a mouth, or I believe in under the LED matrix and some of there's a default ghost from Pac-Man, which I think is a fan favorite. And, you know, the version I made was, you know, actually using the 2 RGB LEDs. It's a little hard to see, but I was trying to make it so the colors slowly changed. So it was like from, you know, the value, which was 0 to 100. So it covered pretty much all the colors, but I tried to make it align with like the breathing, like kind of the mouth. And then to actually build the robot, I actually wanted to make it more simple, where all I did was just put these paper eyes on straws, and I just snap it on like this. And this is my mindfulness bot right here. So it's like a simple way to show expression with my bot. In fact, I can kind of try to replicate and breathe together with it if I can. Oh, well, my timing is a little off, but I found myself trying to tweak the code constantly, you know, trying to match the LED matrix. Eric, what do you think? Like, you know, I know you've built a lot of robots like this where you've made very simple structures, like usually a small square, a small cube. Like, what would you add on to this?
Oh yeah, can I show my little robots then, or is that my? Yeah,
well,
but
just describe this one first.
This one, I love that. So from me, I would connect that same breathing to breathing motion. I would just add the movement to it, because that's what I was talking about before, adding that in the physical space to something that looks calm. It really immediately translates. And I love the LED because that's how I start. It's one of the matrix, the LED matrix makes you, it's so easy to start improvising within that space because they start getting agency over that matrix really fast, the students. So then I think this is a great combo project. Mm-hmm. But I would also add the movement, because I know how, it's so nice with the physical, like that's your next level when it's standing and wobbling. And then you'll see that just adding the different speeds makes that robot, even though it's breathing calmly with the matrix, it will be very different moods. If it's moving fast but still breathing like that, then it's shouting. If it's moving slowly and breathing that like, then it's relaxing. And if it's very fun to see how just a little bit movement translates or changes everything, your entire perception of that.
Exactly. I mean, it's like you can show like different emotions, like, and I think like with expressive robotics, you know, kind of streamlining into how you build a robot that has maybe different kinds of ways to express itself, like excitement, anger, fear. Maybe it's really cold, just like that cold dog that you created. That, you know, there's a video in the Strawbees educators group and on social media showing the cold dog, like how you can do something with the light sensor in a creative way by covering it, you know. And this friend bot here, you know, we made kind of a simple interaction where, you know, we're playing with the servo motor movement. So, you know, I have the servo motor on the top of the body, and I made these cute little legs so I can make it actually stand. It doesn't really stand up on its own, but I can do something playful where the interaction is a little playful. So I can have my friend bot sitting down on the table, and maybe my way of interacting is flipping it over like this and going, wee. and that's like with a little bit of servo motor play. So let's like program it. So maybe I can show you how I can program it. So now my turn to share the screen.
We have lots of people in the comments, it sounds like, getting excited about combining microbit and Strawbees. Some people with microbits and no Strawbees, some with Strawbees and no microbits, and people excited about the possibilities of both. So that's pretty cool.
But that's the thing, it sparks so much. And now Lindsay's turn. I should have a pen. like a noob mistake again. I forgot to have a pen because now I have a thought. Finally, a thought.
It's good to have thoughts, Eric. So I'm actually going to show everyone briefly, you can actually look at the blocks. So we're using MakeCode to program the robotic inventions for microbit. And how we get to that, actually, I want to briefly show. So if I were to click on this gear here in MakeCode editor, and I go to extensions, and I just type in Strawbees right here, then you have the robotic inventions extension. Okay. There we go.
Yep.
So this code that I'm creating here for the FriendBot, I want the interaction to be kind of based off movement. So it's kind of like a move when moved situation where my interaction is grabbing the FriendBot and just shifting, tilting the axis of the microbit. But instead of just having it limited to the X, Y, or Z axis, I wanted to have all three of them as a possibility. So, that's why I'm using like the acceleration as the method of how I engage. But what I wanted to do as well is I want the FriendBot to actually be idle. So it's not just sitting on a table like this where it's not moving, but I want it to be able to like look around a little bit because, like when we're sitting down at our desks, we typically are shifting, our hair is moving, your eyebrows are wiggling, you're moving your arms, stretching your feet. So I kind of want the robot to have like a little bit of engagement with the world. So I'll show you how I code it, because of course, like looking at this code might be hard to decipher, but let's see. I'll articulate it a little bit more this way. Okay. And of course, if you have any comments, questions, feel free to ask Eric or Katie.
Oh yeah, sure. I one thing that I really like about the emotional, just to the thought that I had, I still have it left, which is great, because usually the thoughts come up and then they disappear for me. But one thing that I really love about like making these robots so you should perceive an emotion is that every failure, if you wanted to make it look stressed, for example, or something, I just imagine like making it look calm. If you fail to achieve that, the failure is always a success in another area. So for example, instead of making it look calm, it looked stressed, or it looked happy, or it looked that everything, your brain is made to perceive this motion or interpret these little movements or animations as something. So then you just note that down into your book and you have actually achieved something new that you didn't expect. And then you can go back into your original track and find how to make it calm or do further investigations. But I just wanted to pick that up, that it's a great way, the emotion bots, or like the empathy robots that are supposed to evoke you are supposed to feel like the robot feels something, which is why I call them empathy robots. You always feel that it feels something or other, and then you have a new data point. So it's great. So every time we have that workshop, there's so many different emotions that pop up. And then also the kids are much more fluent in talking about it, because when they're talking about robots, it's not about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes away some of the danger of talking about feelings in the beginning.
Mm-hmm,
That was my comment. I love that.
Yeah,
it makes.
like,
Sorry, Lindsay, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Katie. Go ahead.
The movie, I've been thinking of the movie Inside Out this whole time when we've been talking about like the emotions and the characters. Have you seen that movie, that Pixar movie, Inside Out? But it has the, Sam says Pixar. I love all things Pixar. But you go into the mind of this little girl and you have a different animation that represents each of her emotions. And it's really fascinating how the emotions evolve individually and together. And it's another kind of safe way to talk about, emotions where you're not maybe talking about yourself just yet. And so one of the first things I did after I watched that movie is I really wanted to draw my own animations for what I thought were my emotions. If I were a character in that movie, what would my animations be? And so it was a really fun way to actually start thinking visibly, or drawing or making something invisible visible and talking about it. I would love to pair like an emotion bot or a friend bot activity with a story like Inside Out in Pixar's film.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a lot of fun.
I didn't want to bring it up, but I actually was thinking the same thing the whole time we started this planar, actually. I thought of Inside Out, especially the wealth of wonderful quotes that comes from the movie, especially about facts and opinions. They're actually in the same box. People mix them up when they run into somebody in the train and then mixes them up and says, okay, well, you know, it's common that people mix them up anyways, which I thought was a really fascinating, very well thought out quote. But also, like, you know, when you're building like some of these friend bots, you know, like some of the Strawbees ones, sometimes I let the shape kind of determine its personality. Like, I think of a very large structural project, a very dense project, be very slow and sluggish. You know, like I just think about the Sierpinski pyramid, for example, becoming a project that would be just kind of like this very slow moving, waving robot that, you know, but it also is like very inviting and very excited. And even just putting on these two paper eyes, it's like a really beautiful way to do nonverbal communication, because also a Pixar favorite that nails it is WALL-E, where there is very little dialogue. And those robots are actually the ultimate form of expressive robotics, where it's just tiny chips of, you know, squeeze and, you know, whirls of the wheels, sliding screen, but it's like they're very expressive in their own light, and it's very rare that a movie can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, in the friend bot that I've created, I naturally started with one kind of expression, which is just excitement, kind of like a pet. So like when I'm like building it, I'm kind of making it idle. So, you know, going back to the make code project here. So I want to actually open up the Strawbees blocks, and I want to like kind of set one of the servos. So in the start blocks here, I'm kind of making it so this is the idle. So when I turn on the robot, it's going to be doing something. It's going to be sitting at home maybe. I don't think of my friend bot as a pet, more as like my imaginary friend. But I think of like when I come home from school, or I guess in this case, work, they're very excited to see me. But even in quarantine, they can be still very excited to see me. So, you know, and I'm putting this together here. So I'm making the I'm gonna only move like one servo motor, but I could actually pair up to 3 servo motors on a single robotics inventions board here. So, you know, I just wanted to do a very basic function, which is, you know, just making it move a little bit. So I'm just gonna program this pretty quickly here. And then I'm just gonna upload my program right now. The interesting thing about Strawbees also is no matter how small you make them, they still take up the whole camera. So hopefully I can show a little bit of it.
Reminds me, I should maybe do a revisit on the classic Pixar Lamp.
Ooh, yeah.
Because I did the 4-bar lamp shade, and it's really fun to animate it because that is using only one axis. In many of the movements, it's just vibrating, it's excited or slowly moving. You see all these expressions. It's fantastic. Yeah. But apparently my like Camilla, my soon-to-be wife, she thinks I'm too mean to my robots because I mostly make sad robots that I can comfort some way. But it's really, the feeling is it's so nice. I made the pick-me-up robot. So for example, the robot that Lindsay is working on now, with the microbit, it will sense that it's being picked up and then it's comforted. So that's the thing. And you can also sense that you will keep calm. So you can show, those are the things that I see. I always see potential in the circuit board and what it can do in terms of these slightly more sad robots, but that you can comfort. But then we can make them happy, just like Lindsay did instead. obviously.
Yeah, I also really like to, I mean, I typically find myself making happier robots, to be quite honest. I don't want to make a robot that has to deal with a lot of sadness, and maybe that's just my own potential future parenting that maybe is about to happen, where I want my children to feel happy and pleasant and feel joy when they see me. But I think that I honestly, I mean, Eric is a little bit more experimental when it comes to like the different range of emotions. So I'm kind of more of the classic, you know, friendly like the first interaction of through picking it up or flipping it upside down, getting it very excited about, you know, its day, or just seeing me, for example. So I'm just kind of settling on the, so on the forever loop, I want to make it so anytime that I can interact with the friend bot, that this is like causing the interaction and the excitement. So then now I'm going to make it so the head is shifting back and forth fairly quickly. And, you know, I might just adjust the code very briefly, although I won't spend too much time on that because I think Eric needs to have his airtime in showing his fantastic little friend bots in the background. So I'm going to kind of show the interaction a little bit through my make code. So I'm actually going to try to be very careful about how I grab, and you'll see the slight interaction.
So in the chat, Paulo was just mentioning that you can save a step when you're downloading by pairing directly between your make code programming window and your microbit. And he was saying that if you click on the gear icon on the top right of your screen next to the Microsoft logo, there is a drop-down menu that allows you to pair your device. And then when you click download, the file that you create goes directly to your microbit. So I just wanted to verbalize that because there was a kind of a sidebar chat happening, and I just wanted to clarify that if anybody had questions.
Well, that's absolutely great. In fact, I can always improve my process because actually Katie showed me a really fantastic tip on uploading the microbit. I actually have it so whenever the microbit is connected to the computer, that in Google Chrome automatically it uploads it directly to my microbit, so I don't have to drag it from download, like my downloads folder, into the driver for microbit. So that was also another fantastic tip that Katie showed me. Katie, is there like any instructions about that at all, or you know, anywhere online?
Yes, and actually we can try one right now. Lindsay, if you want to, oh, did you already get it?
Yeah, just a little bit of a technical difficulty. I think my bot is a little tired, but go ahead and show it.
Nice. So if you, just to clarify, if you click on the gear icon up in the top right, now at the very bottom it says pair device. That's what Paula was saying. If you select that button, you should, and when the microbit is plugged in.
If it's plugged in.
Okay, let's try it together so that way everyone can see it.
We'll
Good.
see how it goes.
Because I also did, that's the fun thing that I was doing this morning because I was investigating web USB for lots of different reasons. And then I saw the web USB thing in, because I had a microbit that I need to go through upgrade the firmware on. So that's when I realized that this existed.
All right,
So
yes, give it a shot.
perfect to go through that.
Awesome.
Okay. So we'll give this a chance. And Sam is meanwhile talking about some of the robot dance projects that he has made. He recently posted on Twitter a robot, I'm calling it robot ballet. Sam, I don't remember if you called it robot ballet, but it's all about synchronized motion. And I can picture this friend bot. I can picture 2 or 3 friend bots in synchronized motion, almost as backup dancers or backup singers. If you were to do a performance or have a lead robot in the front, I think that would be a lot of fun. Actually, Lindsay, if you have more than one make code window open, the microbit might be confused which one it's listening to. Unfortunately, that might have been.
It's no problem. Well, I think I'll stop sharing my screen anyways, because I think the code actually did upload. So I think it actually, with everyone's collective help, which was a good learning experience for me, but also for anyone else here that didn't know. Now we all know. So, so actually this technical difficulty was a really good experience for everybody.
That's how it works. And also that's, yeah, it's a classic thing. So yeah, and, I love, should I show my little friend bots?
Yeah, please do. We have a few minutes for you to finally unveil the School of Ridiculous Eric.
No, but, I'll end on that, but the friend bots here are so classic projects because I love, so the thing is, where I saw Sam's talk about the dancing robots, and I love when one of the things that Microbit has brought to the table for me is say a thing can spread through the room with the robots. So you can have one robot starting dancing, setting the BPM, because I've done a lot of BPM dancing robot projects, and then any robot that is close enough will start replicating that motion. And then they start dancing, all of them in sync. That's a great robot dancing project that I really want to do. And it tangents, but the reason I'm thinking that way is because these friend bots are going to show how I feel about this entire situation. So I actually made 2 robots that are very social robots. So they love being close to their friends. And so they wanted to convey, it's one of our projects that are coming out now for, you see this, oh, it's actually starting back there. He's getting some signal because the problem. So this guy is empty inside because his friend is so far away. So you see this little square is emptiness that you feel when you can't meet your friends. So now the robot is going to meet his friend. So the proximity, the strength of the signal of the radio, then it turns into hearts. See, I'm going to show them closer. So when they're close to each other, they met their soulmates and their friends. And obviously, if you're soulmates or not depends on what frequency you're on, and these are on channel 1.
They're channel 1 friends.
It's channel 1 friends. So you can have different clicks of robots in the room. So I was actually, so you see, it's very, when we take them apart, emptiness comes back. Let's see. So it's using the radio strength. Very fun project. And that is obviously then, if the strength is enough, you will pick up on your friend robot's dance moves. And then you start dancing. Because we did I did some dancing robots to, where the kids needed to learn how to calculate the BPM, the beats per minute. How to translate that into seconds or milliseconds on your movement. So it's a great project. But I love these kinds of, where the story is like how you feel when you're away from your friends, and then when you get close, they start, oh. And obviously then you can also learn how radio works when you actually have splash on these metal walls. So when if they're side to side, it won't pick up as much.
Eric, there's someone in the comments, Christine, that's asking, how did you make that work with the proximity? You used a really clever way of using the radio signals. Can you explain that for about maybe 1 to 2 minutes?
I just have never shared a screen in Zoom, so I'm the Zoom noob, really bad Zoomer.
That's okay, Eric.
No, but hey, I'm gonna learn. I'm just bad this far. I'm not gonna learn. So that's my settings. Let's see if I can find even the sharing thing here. And then before that, I'm gonna make sure that I have the code here. So
and actually guys, I figured out why my friend bot wasn't working. It wasn't actually the upload. It's because I made a mistake in my code where in the acceleration I was just using the X axis, and I was not putting it to strength. So it's always those little things that you have to kind of look for, those little things. So I actually thought it was just the downloads, but it turns out my code was also part of the problem. So while Eric gets the share screen, I have my robot here.
Yeah, I know how to share the screen. I just have to find the code, and I have done too much programming today. So I'm going to see if I can find it. I put it on in a nice little folder on my desktop, because this is one of our big projects that a lot of people are going to be doing, hopefully, because it was so much fun. Close friend bot. Yes, there he is. Which is a good name also, I think. There we have it. Yeah. So this is actually, I used a neat trick, and I don't know if it's a bug or not, but it works really well. So I like that. So share screen. Let's see. Boom. Close. There we are. share. Oh, do you see this now?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I do in the startup, I set the radio group to 1, and this is where you choose your friends. I like 1s or 2s or 3s. You know how it is, but that's up to you. And then I send a number constantly, which is a little bit fun. So I don't know if you even have to do this. This was just my experiment a couple of days ago, so I haven't even refined this code yet. But then on radio received, because they are all sending the same code, both of these robots, but when they don't receive at the same time as the send, and that's why it works. They don't send while they're, so if you follow my logic there. So you see they're both on the exact same, running the exact same code. So if on radio received, if received packet signal strength is, this is where you set the signal strength is in decibels. So it's -49 here. They can go to -44 or something. I actually started by using the calibration to see the number on the screen, what the signal strength was. And Katie, you probably know more about the exact, what's the top signal strength you can get, but because it's decibels, it's a negative number.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to go the other way if you want them to realize that they're close, you can extend the range by having a higher low number, negative number, if you follow. Am I making any sense here? This is the thing, when you program it, you realize what's happening. So when the signal strength is above this, it works. And it shows the icon, the heart, and then repeats a little movement, wave of the arm, and otherwise it's here. Actually, it should be, yeah, above there. Mm-hmm. And it's still above because the negative value, so this is going to hurt your brain. It's a little bit upside down with decibels. But you can do some experiments and then shift the below or above. And then it will become friends if they're far apart instead.
Well, you know, Eric, what we could do after this PLAYINAR, because we're getting close to the end, we have about 6 minutes left. Maybe we can do a brief recording explaining it, maybe showing it, you know, after this PLAYINAR, so we can, you know, share the code as well for anyone that's interested, because, you know, ultimately what's happening here is that you are using one bot as the sender and receiver of its own radio signal.
Yeah, and so you saw that I got some glitches before. We had a little bit of glitches, and that's because radio waves, they can bounce. So when they're in a too close space, when I'm so close to this metal wall here, it can actually hear itself being close to itself. But usually that doesn't happen. But that's also, as you see now. But I love how we learn how these things work. And I could obviously send I can send a name and a code and separate them. But I wanted to keep it simple. And because it worked, it was really fun. And we've been experimenting with it. But afterwards, if somebody wants to join, yes, we could go over that. But can I also show one of my accidental inventions today that have nothing to do with the friend bots? Or are we out of time?
Go ahead. Just spend about like 1 or 2 minutes on it. We can make time for you, Eric.
Yes.
Of course.
So I'm gonna. So today I'm doing another project for the School of Inventions, which is basically this random thing. So one thing I wanted to do, and this is the story of invention. So I'm going to just steal this clip temporarily. When you do things, other ideas pop up. So I was making something to make me move from my desk, to not sit still for too long. So it was supposed to sense when I was moving or not. Rules set in, and then if I didn't move, it was going to slap me a little bit in the face, just kindly. But to investigate that, I needed to start measuring if I'm moving or not. And then it became I realized really fast that that's a much more fun game to actually move within a certain set. So I made this. Oh, now it says I moved. Wait a second. So this is in a harness. You see the diagram there is showing that I'm moving. So I'm using the stable diagram showing the movement. I can share this code too later. And when I move too much, so I'm sneaking around like the spy. I'm sneaking around, then it doesn't trigger. And then it gives me, so what I invented was a sneak track outdoors. So you have 2 of these on. The harness is one on me and one on my friend. And then we had to sneak around that track, and it sends points. If you move, so you get a negative, you get a point deduction, and then your opponent gets a point added. So it was a really fun game. And I love that with this really turned the microbit into this amazing game design element together with the harness, but because it never feels like, as Katie said before, when I showed you, it looks like some kind of laser tag game, but it's sneak tag. So
you could make it into laser tag, Eric. If you had a second microbit based on proximity and hitting A or B, you could make a little tag machine. I don't want to call it, like a laser gun. It's not a laser gun.
But you can use the light sensor too. If you have like above a certain level, you can hit them. But then also I started, because I love this little radio functionality, the proximity. You can have a tag game where you also get tagged by being just within 2 meters. So it's like a non-touch tag. And these days it's a very good game.
Social distancing tag.
Social distancing tag, yeah. No touching of the hands, just get within 2 meters, but not closer than 1 meter. That's good, because then you get negative values. You see, now we're in game design territory. That's
well, and like this, all the skill. Oh, by the way, Eric, there was a request if you could stop sharing your screen for now.
Oh, sorry. Yes, of course.
No problem. No problem. It's interesting because with all this playfulness and all this creative problem solving, we're developing these natural intuitions for mathematical thinking, but we don't call it math. We focus on the play and the math comes with it. Very, very precise and important creative problem solving.
Did I just show my boring screen while I was showing this amazing harness?
We could still see you. You were small next to the code.
It's okay, Eric. Technology is hard. That's why we're all learning.
Yeah. I'm a webinar, like this is the thing, Zoom noob. But I love that. An area where I can grow.
We have about like 1 minute left, so we might go maybe 1 or 2 minutes over. But I think it's unfortunately time to close the planar, unfortunately, which actually time went by. That actually went by a little too fast, especially for the first one. Yeah, and just to answer Lisa's question, my robot is kind of like meant to be like where its head is spinning. Although I think I have like I have to like kind of move it pretty quickly, and it should, but I think maybe I made him a little dizzy. Yeah, a little dizzy and tired from today.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I definitely have a lot of new ideas to try. I want to make a harness for my microbit, and I want to create some whole body games. That sounds like a lot of fun today.
It was
absolutely. Thank you, everyone. And we're going to also be posting a lot of resources after. So we will be having like a set of slides with a list of resources. So featuring some of the activities like the FriendBot that's on strawbeeslearning.com and the calming LEDs, which is on the microbit classroom, as well as other resources, including trying to write down Eric's brain in a video format to show some of his fun gamification. But he also has a new show called School of Ridiculous Inventions. So you can kind of follow along Eric.
A secret update on that. I have so many fun projects in there, but what I'm doing now is, all these bubble machines, automatic? I'm making one using our hovercraft to make giant bubbles. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned.
Lindsay, there was a question about getting Strawbees in Canada. I just don't want to miss Lisa's question. Do you know how she can get her Strawbees?
Strawbees is available in Canada. We're actually available on Amazon. So we're actually all over Amazon in the US, UK. So we're pretty easy and agile, but we also are available in our own store as well. And we ship internationally anywhere.
Wonderful. Excellent. All right. Well, thanks again. This was a lot of fun. Eric, you're a genius. Lindsay, you're a super fun hostess. I can't wait for the next PLAYINAR.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.